Before the blood, before the fire, before the screams echoed across the northern seas, there was silence. And in that silence, something else stirred. Not faith, not fury, but chemistry. The Vikings were not born fearless. They made themselves fearless. And according to old sagas and new science, they may have had help from nature's most dangerous plants. Tonight, we step into the mind of the Norse warrior and ask, did the Vikings use drugs to find courage or madness? Stay till the end, because what you're about to hear will change how you see the Viking Age forever. In the 8th and 9th centuries, the world trembled at the mention of one name, the Northmen. They came from the mists of Scandinavia, storming the shores of England, France, and beyond. To their victims, they were monsters. To themselves, they were poets of war, sailing into chaos, chanting songs of Odin, believing that to die in battle was the highest honor. But courage was not always easy to summon. The cold bit deep. The fear of death was real. And when hundreds of men rode into foreign lands under black sails, even the bravest heart could falter. So how did these warriors drown their fear? Was it faith or something far more primal? The answer lies not in their swords, but in their bloodstream. And to find it, we need to open the sagas and look between the lines. Historians have debated Viking drug use for decades, and the question remains one of history's most intoxicating mysteries. Ancient texts are frustratingly silent, or perhaps deliberately cryptic. The Norse sagas speak of Berserkers, those terrifying warriors who fought in an uncontrollable fury, who bit their shields until their mouths bled, and who seemed untouched by pain or fear. They were unstoppable until the last drop of blood left their bodies. But what could cause that kind of frenzy? Was it divine possession, a warrior overtaken by the spirit of Odin? Or was it something else? Something rooted in the soil, brewed in secret, and burned beneath the northern sky? Archaeologists have uncovered strange evidence. Henbane seeds placed in warrior graves, fragments of fly agaric mushrooms, the red and white kind known for powerful hallucinations, and traces of ritual fire pits filled with burned herbs. These findings don't tell a complete story, but they sketch the outline of one. There is no scroll that reads, "Here lies the man who drank courage." No saga that names a potion or ritual explicitly. But there are patterns. And in history, patterns are whispers, hints of a truth that survived only in the spaces between words. The sagas never say drugs. They speak instead of transformations. Men who became beasts, calm minds that erupted into chaos. The line between spiritual and chemical blurs, leaving us to wonder, were the Berserkers truly touched by gods, or by the Earth's own hidden alchemy? Perhaps both, perhaps neither. But one thing is certain, something inside them changed. And that change reshaped the terror of Viking warfare forever. In the forests and fjords of the north, nature hid its arsenal. Henbane, a yellow flower with a sweet, deadly scent. Consumed in small doses, it numbs pain and induces aggression. In larger doses, it causes delirium and hallucinations. Mandrake, pulled from the ground, its roots twist like human limbs. Ancient people said it screamed when uprooted. The juice of its leaves could make soldiers fearless or insane. Datura, a plant of witches and shamans, known for its power to blur the line between reality and dream. These weren't recreational herbs. They were tools of transformation. Ingested before battle, they could suppress pain, heighten rage, and erase fear. The cost? Control. The body obeyed the herb, but the mind belonged to chaos. And chaos had another name, the Berserker. Before we go deeper, if you're enjoying this journey through the hidden truths of history, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We dive into the mysteries behind power, betrayal, and belief every week. Now, back to the fire. They were Odin's chosen, the Berserkers. Men who fought bare-chested in the frozen air, wrapped only in animal skins, eyes wild with a frenzy that made even seasoned warriors recoil. To the monks who survived their raids, these men weren't human at all. They were monsters wearing human faces. Medieval chronicles whisper of men who howled like beasts, bit their shields, and were as strong as bears. Modern historians now believe this terrifying trance wasn't mere rage, it was induced through ritual, through breathwork, through something swallowed, smoked, or burned. Something that turned fear into fire. Picture it. The night before battle, deep in the northern woods, a circle of men sit around a crackling fire, their shadows stretching like spirits against the trees. A shaman crouches in the center, his hands grinding seeds, crushing roots, whispering to the old gods. The bowl passes from hand to hand. They drink, they tremble, their eyes glaze, their breaths quicken. The world begins to spin as the drums rise in tempo, thump, 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 like the heartbeat of war itself. When dawn arrives, those same men charge the enemy with inhuman fury. Swords flash, blood sprays, and nothing, no wound, no plea, no fear can stop them. To outsiders, it looked like possession. To the Vikings, it was divine strength. But here's where the myth fractures. What if it wasn't mushrooms at all? For centuries, scholars believed the Amanita muscaria mushroom, with its red cap and white spots, fueled this berserker rage. Yet recent studies suggest another culprit, something deadlier, darker, and far more controlled than a wild hallucinogen. Because the mushroom theory might just be the oldest misdirection in Viking history. In 1784, a Swedish scholar suggested that berserkers used Amanita muscaria, the red and white fly agaric mushroom found in northern forests. It was hallucinogenic, used by Siberian shamans to enter trance states. The idea spread fast. Viking mushrooms became legend, but when modern pharmacologists studied Amanita muscaria, they found a problem. It causes disorientation, nausea, and drowsiness, not rage. It could make you feel divine, but it wouldn't make you swing a sword harder. So if not mushrooms, then what? That's where henbane returns to the story. In 2020, archaeologists in Denmark uncovered a Viking grave with traces of henbane seeds. Its chemical compound, hyoscyamine, is known to cause aggression and numb pain, exactly what berserkers needed. Coincidence? Or the missing link between myth and biology? Before you decide, there's one more thing you need to hear. Think about it. In battle, fear is not weakness, it's survival. The body floods with adrenaline, the heart pounds, and the mind screams, run. But imagine if that signal could be silenced. If fear itself could be switched off like a candle in the wind. Certain plants, henbane, datura, even nightshade, contain alkaloids that twist the brain's chemistry. They dull fear, blur pain, and unshackle the limits of the human body. To the Vikings, who saw courage as sacred, that chemical fearlessness may have felt like touching the divine. Under their influence, the world changes. Colors sharpen, sounds warp, your heartbeat becomes the only rhythm that exists. And when the enemy appears, you don't hesitate, you charge. Adrenaline floods unchecked, muscles obey without question, and pain feels like nothing but noise in the background. You feel invincible, untouchable, godlike. Now imagine 100 men feeling that at once. Their eyes wide, their breath in sync, their roars merging into one monstrous sound. It's not just a battle anymore. It's a storm breaking loose, a living thunder that crushes everything in its path. But every storm leaves wreckage. After the frenzy came the crash, paranoia, trembling, blindness, even death. Some berserkers collapsed mid-battle, their bodies shutting down, their minds lost to the gods they worshipped. Others never woke at all. Which leaves us with a chilling thought. Were these substances a weapon of war or a ritual sacrifice of sanity? Because in their pursuit of fearlessness, the Vikings may have discovered something more powerful and more dangerous than courage itself. Not everyone agrees with the drug theory. Some scholars argue that berserker rage was purely psychological, a product of intense ritual, hyperventilation, and belief. They point to the Volsunga saga, which describes men possessed by Odin, not poisoned by herbs. And they remind us, Vikings saw rage as holy, a sacred fury granted by the gods. In this light, the herbs may not have caused the madness. They may have symbolized it. Still, science tells us the line between psychology and chemistry is thin. Faith can trigger hormones, belief can alter biology. So maybe the question isn't whether the Vikings used drugs, but how far they were willing to go to become gods among men. Because one discovery suggests their quest for power didn't end with plants. In the village of Fyrkat, Denmark, archaeologists found a grave containing seeds of Hyoscyamus niger, henbane, beside a female shaman. Nearby lay tools for brewing and ritual use. Some researchers now believe she supplied warriors before raids, mixing drinks that dulled pain and heightened rage. Other evidence appears in Icelandic sagas describing ale of strength, mead of fury, and sacred smoke. The ingredients are never listed. But the effects, they echo everything henbane is known to cause. These weren't common intoxicants. They were ritual keys, doors to courage opened by chemistry and closed by death. And that brings us to the final haunting question. What if courage itself was the drug? In the end, no one can say for certain what the Vikings consumed before battle. But maybe that's the point. The Berserker's secret wasn't just what he drank. It was what he believed. That his body could become divine. That pain meant nothing. That death was not the end. Whether through herbs, rituals, or pure conviction, the Vikings mastered the oldest chemistry in existence, the alchemy of the human mind. And maybe that's what made them unstoppable. If you've made it this far, you already understand what drove them, the need to feel something greater, even if it destroys you. But the story doesn't end here, because some of those same herbs still grow today. And in some corners of Europe, the old recipes survive, their secrets buried in folklore, waiting to be awakened again. The Vikings didn't conquer Europe by muscle alone. They conquered it by mastering fear. Whether through the gods or the garden, they found a way to silence the part of the brain that says stop. And when that silence fell, the world burned. So next time you hear of berserkers, don't picture madness. Picture men staring into the void, armed not just with axes, but with the forbidden science of courage. If you enjoyed this story, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you never miss the next chapter of history's darkest secrets. Watch the next video on your screen to uncover how medieval kings used poison to erase their enemies, and how one sip changed the fate of Europe.